Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSi DFS Fantasy NASCAR Picks. I'm your host, Mega Ruler 31. We've got the Xfinity race today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 200 laps. Last week wasn't bad race, just a couple wrecks that were not fortunate for some of us in DFS. This week, I didn't even think they were going to get practice and qualifying. The forecast looks horrible for New England this weekend. So, but they did get practice and qualifying in, and so we got some good looks at the cars and what people have and what they might not have. It's an impound, so I can't make too many adjustments. So the only thing that I worry about today is that there's more rain in the forecast. They do have the windshield wipers, they do have the slick tires and the blinking things on the back just in case, or the wet tires for the track. But I just worry about lightning that might delay it, make another choppy race, or that they might not get the whole race in if there's going to be lightning. So because I think they want to try to get cup practice and qualifying in if they potentially can, but the weather tomorrow, it's like 80% chance of thunderstorms and rain like all day long. Just watching like the weather and like the storm systems that are coming through like the northeast up into New England tomorrow are just very severe. So I think they'll race eventually, but I don't know if it'll be Sunday or Monday or when, but stay tuned for that one. But anyways, let's get into Xfinity. So it's a short track, so it's about a mile long, and it's a flat track, so not much banking. Some of the turns are pretty long getting into them, and there's some people, it's been their first time here, but this isn't like really treacherous track. They should do pretty well. And looking obviously some people raced it last year, but Richmond, Phoenix are pretty similar to this. The Cup guys had North Wilkesboro also, which is a little bit shorter, but kind of the same concept. So, in making my projections here, I looked at last year's data. I looked at Richmond, I looked at Phoenix, I looked at their flat, shorter track averages, and then we did have their practice times to fall back on. So Chandler Smith with the pole here, I think he's a prime play. It is harder to pass on this track. So if he can get out front and ahead of John Hunter Nemechek, I think he's set for a while. I don't know with weather, so if there's going to be a competition caution, there shouldn't be. There really, unless there is going to be weather, haven't been too many incidents. There's usually pretty long green flag runs on this track. So that's why I really want to focus on the guys. You see the ones that I put the number next to where they ranked in top 10 long run speed. And Smith was up there in 7. The Collie cars, they didn't run as many laps, but they kind of waited because they wanted to kind of see what the track was going to be like and how their cars responded in like kind of like the race conditions. So they waited for like cars to go out there and run like 10 laps to put some rubber down. Then they sent their cars out. And so I think that kind of helped. So Chandler Smith has the pole. He won, was it Richmond? So he has a win on a similar type track here. So not on this track. So I think definitely he's one to watch. I like him as a prime play. I think he gets out front. If you don't think he's the guy, and I like the savings on him at 9.9, but if you don't think he's the guy, then John Hunter Nemechek won last week. Kind of got lucky with that win, in my opinion. I think that there's like a lot of other better cars than him out there, but hey, he was in position. Same thing we say about Alex Bowman quite often. The car had to be there at the right time and be able to be in a position to win the race. So and he did it, so kudos to him. But I really thought that the colleague cars were going to work together and try to get Hemrick, who hasn't won his win, but like again, just a late caution screwed things up, and kudos to Nemechek. 7 decent season. He's always a GPP for me because as much as he can win the race, he could also not do well and starting in second position. Then there could be some fall off. So the Joe Gibbs cars from 2021 on back were like really dominant for many years here, winning and just doing super well at this track. Last year Allgaier won from the JR camp, and as you can see, the next 3 cars are all JR Motorsports cars. So I think Nemechek's definitely in play here. And then between the JR cars here, Barry Allgaier and Jones, Allgaier won last year. Allgaier had the best long run speed, and Allgaier has like the best composites track average here. So I think he's my play. You can't play everybody up here, but in GPPs, I will play a Gibbs stack, and I will have a JR Motorsports stack here with it's kind of expensive, but Jones's price kind of helps it out, and Mayer's only 9.2. You got to throw a couple scrubs in towards the bottom, but I just, if it is hard to pass, if these guys can all hold their position, if Mayer can advance a little bit, and if one of them could end up like getting out and leading the race and dominating the race, then I think that's definitely a great GPP strategy. I'm not doing in cash, but I'm okay if you want to put Allgaier in as a second dominator in cash. Like I said, Brandon Jones, you get a nice price. He's up and down on things, like, but still he was top 10 long run speed, so I think it can work for you. 5th overall in the rankings. Cole Custer comes number 1 in all my rankings here. He finished 3rd last week. He's had a dominant car. He's in good form. He had the best long run speed here. He was 2nd overall in one lap speed in practice. And for track average, he's 8.5, which isn't too bad, but everything's top 10 here. So I think he's, his cup experience is starting to round into form. I think it was just getting used to the different car, because they were the next gen car, and then he went back to an Xfinity car and the team and everything. But things starting to click at the right time for him. So definitely one of my favorite plays here. So I think, for the 2 dominators, I want Chandler Smith and I want Cole Custer. But if you want to mix up anybody else up here in the top 10, that's fine. I think Sammy Smith is another great option. He was 6th in speed, like number 1 in practice. So definitely, and again, it's a Joe Gibbs car. So, and number 2 overall when you're looking at the composites. So definitely somebody else that you really want to consider as potentially one to come up here and maybe dominate. He ran good at Phoenix also. So someone else to consider. Hill, the Childress cars just have been having some mechanical issues. It's weird. Both of them, both he and Creed lost their transmission before the Atlanta race and had to go to the back of the field. I know there was a problem with the accelerator with Creed this week. Hill didn't seem to have anything. His 3rd fastest overall long run speed. Everything points to this being another good play. I like the place differential. I like the pricing. So, I'll definitely put him in cash. I don't know if I'll try to squeeze 3 guys in, but I think it's not impossible to get Smith, Hill, and then one of the 10K guys in your lineup with the value that's out there. But you've got some mid-range chalk plays towards the bottom that probably everybody's going to probably put in their cash lineup. So I think that's going to maybe stop you from being able to do that build. But if you want to do that build in a GPP, it definitely could make a difference if the guys that are starting in the back of the field that are going to be super, super chalky, like crash or something and don't advance and only end up with, less than 10 DK points, and they don't like smash their value by getting a ton of place differential, then definitely that's going to set you apart from other players in like smaller pools, like 3 entry max or like 20 entry max, things like that. Mayer, I already said, is decent. Didn't have great long certain speed. I mean, he was 13th, so it wasn't horrible. It wasn't in the top 10, but definitely 16th overall. He's had some challenges on these types of tracks. The track average finish is around 14th. So someone to consider in cash. Hemrick, I mean, he's starting down. Like, he finished 2nd last week, but it was a plate track, and it was more like the Coley cars working together. So I think he's a GPP here, but like his composite average is 23. Like, he's had some struggles on these types of tracks, so I can't play him in cash, but I think there's some upside there. I'm always a Brett Moffitt whisperer. 12th here. His track average is about 16th, so I think it's GPP. I think he's a fine play. I don't think he's got upside a ton in GPP. I don't think it's cash. And he's kind of in no man's land. For a couple $100 more, you're going to drop down to cars that could absolutely be smash plays. So I just don't think Brett Moffitt's going to have a lot of ownership here. And I don't think this is the week that I really want to be playing him. I like him more when he's like outside the top 15 or even outside the top 20. So not a bad driver, not a bad car, not a bad position, and he wasn't even in the top 20 in long run speed. So that's another nail in the coffin kind of for playing Brett Moffitt today. Parker Retzlaff, I like this young driver. He just seems very studious. He struggled at Richmond, but that was early. Phoenix, he did a little bit. Actually, Richmond was after Phoenix, but track average 12th here. Got him about 15th, starting 13th. So if he finished where he starts, I think he's okay in this Jordan Anderson car. Again, he wasn't top 20 in long run speed, so I think that he's fine in GPP, but not a priority for cash. Riley Herbst, he was 12th in long run speed in practice here. 86, not a bad price. Didn't do real at New Hampshire last year, but ran really well at Richmond and Phoenix. So his overall track average is like top 10. So I think definitely some place differential points there and potentially go up. I know he does find some crashes and every so often, but I think this is a good race for him. And the same reason, he's a teammate with Custer, and I kind of like what I've been seeing with the Custer camp and things working out. And I think that's going to help Riley Herbst do well also towards the end of the season. So definitely like him. Clearman, I like also this big red machine racing. It's been solid. He was 11th in long run speed, so just outside the top 10. Practice, he was 14th. So I think he can hold this. He's got top 10 potential, so I think he's definitely a cash play you can consider. Jeremy Clement, I really liked him in practice. He looked really quietly solid. He had 6th fastest overall time. And he might be starting a little bit far forward from where we liked him. We usually like him like 20th on back, but and his long run speed wasn't in the top 20 either. So it's a couple things, but a 6,500, again, if it's hard to pass, I think you can stay up in the top 20. And just on finishing position alone at 6,500, if he finishes, let's see here where the bonus is. So let's say he finishes where he starts and doesn't gain or lose any place from points. That gives you like 27 DK points, and that's decent. I'll take that from him at how much is he? 6,500. So my model has him at 37. So it's a little bit him doing a little bit more, but I think even let me just change the number to 27, see what the X value is. I look for 4.15. That's perfectly fine. I will take that. So Sheldon Creed, like my model really likes him just because his numbers have been solid in New Hampshire last year, at Richmond, at Phoenix. He runs really well on these types of tracks. Everything's in green here, which should mean he's a smash play, but he did have a mechanical issue with the accelerator bleeding and not being able to give it like gas and up to speed during practice. They did get it fixed, and his qualifying lap was okay. In practice wise, before what he could do out there, he was 5th fastest. He was 4th with long run speed. So everything says this is a great play. If you want to play him in cash, I don't hate it, but I just, with the mechanical issues and the issues that he's running with his aggressiveness and just finding trouble and not being able to stay out of trouble, then that's why he's a GPP for me. But I think he's a phenomenal, and he will be the number one guy that I lock in my GPP main lineup, because I love this play. I love Sheldon Creed. He's just too volatile, and I'm just a little bit skeptical on the mechanical issue that they completely have it fixed, because they don't really have time to work on these cars afterwards. Maybe they do. Maybe you'll see him starting at the back of the field, which again will limit his upside because it's harder to get through. But I think through pit strategy and stuff, he might be able to get at least back to his point where he started and move upwards here. And he's definitely got to make some chances to get into the playoffs. I think he's okay with point wise, but I think he'd definitely like to get a win. And this is a great track for potential for him. I mean, there's a lot of other competitors that could get the win, but I think he's another one to consider here. So again, really like Sheldon Creed, but it's just hard to play him in cash with just some of the other factors. Anthony Alfredo, he's okay. Just might finish where he starts. Like, the car always concerns me being a BJ McLeod one. He's a decent driver, but if you look at all his metrics, they're in like the 20s. So I don't really see a ton of upside for him. Joe Graff Jr., if you watch these videos, that I despise playing Joe Graff Jr. I equate him as the same as Harrison Burton in Cup. It's just like, and Harrison Burton was the first guy to spin out in the last race in Cup Series, and I've just seen he's like the human caution flag here. But he's in the Gibbs car. He looked good in practice. He had number 3. I think that this is a week where you consider playing him in GPP, and he's a fringe borderline cash play. It's 7,100 in his Gibbs car, and how dominant they've been. And what I saw in practice, they in 9th overall long run speed. But then again, you look at this at Richmond, his average running position was 37th. In Phoenix is 28th. Last year here was 23rd. His track average is 30th. It seems like he struggles in tracks like this where you don't really see many cautions. He would be the one to make it happen. So that's why I still have the GPP tag on him. And if you've watched these videos over the years, you know there's certain drivers like this. Brandon Jones has been like this. Chandler Smith was like this in the Truck Series. He's been better since he's been in Xfinity. Josh Williams is like this. It's just Ricky Stenhouse, Ross Chastain at some certain points, Kyle Busch, where it just seems they have some talent. They have equipment in different instances between those different drivers I mentioned, but they just find trouble. And I'm hoping that this is the week. Again, he'll be in my Gibbs stack when I build that in a GPP. I would definitely probably be the first guy in my GPP. I don't know if I want him in my cash lineup, but consider it. Jeb Burton, he's a cash play just because the family is from this area. And, when Ward Burton, especially when Jeff Burton ran here, they just dominated. They did really well. I mean, if you're an old dude like me and been around the NASCAR game for a while, back in, I think it was 2000 or 99 or maybe even 2001, is around that time frame. Kyle Petty's son and Richard Petty's grandson, that was Adam Petty, I believe, like was in a fatal crash in a practice or qualifying or something at this grounds in Cup. So what they did was they put restrictor plates on these cars, and it was the boringest race I have ever watched in my life. And Jeff Burton got the pole, and he led from start to finish. Nobody could pass, nobody could do anything. So this track is already hard to pass on, but put restrictor plates on the car, like it was a parade all day. I'm just so glad they didn't have DFS back then, because it just would have been a nightmare. If you could afforded the drivers and just locked in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was the nut lineup right there. And so hopefully we never see anything surreal like that again. But again, Jeb Burton, being part of that racing family, has had a lot of experience here and understands the track and does quite well here. 13th overall track average. Even if you look at his composite at 26, I'm fine with that. I think that he's going to be okay here. Again, wasn't in the top 20 in long run speed, but at 7,300, I think he's a decent plug-in in a GPP. And I think just based on his experience with the track and kind of understanding it, he might be able to make some passes where people otherwise couldn't, that don't have as much experience. So I like him here. LeBay, I usually like more on like road courses and stuff, but he sets up pretty well on these short tracks too here. I think he's fine under the cash play. He's one that does alternate strategies and stuff usually to try to get up there and win races. So he's not an every week driver. He's not racing for points. He's racing for wins and sponsor, and stuff like that. So I would never be surprised if everybody else goes in the pit and he stays out to get track position, and then that just helps move him up. So that just seems to be his game. 18th overall, he's starting in the top 20. So I think there's some upside, probably about 5 place differential points. So definitely like him at 6,900. Josh Williams at GPP starting a little too far forward for me here, but at 5,700, I think he's solid. Like usually 22nd overall, that's where he's starting. So again, if he can just hang on to his position at 5,700, if he finishes where he starts, that's wrong one, bonuses, that's 20 DK points. If he does nothing else, I have him projected at like 18. So maybe if he loses a couple spots, 3x, I think that's fine for GPP. Weatherman is JD Motorsports car. It's not one of the better cars he's been in, but he's a really good driver, so I think he's fine. for a GPP if you land in that range. Brandon Poole's a fade. He started way too far forward. I liked Weatherman as a driver in a JD car more than Poole. I know Poole's had some decent results recently, but in practice here, he looked pretty slow. He's 32nd overall, whereas Kyle Weatherman was like 24th. Connor Mosick, I think this is one that's I'm going to get some heat on for cash. It's a fringe play, but with the pricing, the Toyotas have been really strong here. He's finished like in the 30s the last couple of races. He did have a top 8 finish, I think, with a chaotic race that was about a month ago. So I think there is some upside here, but the Sam Hunt Racing program's decent. The car is decent. He was 16th overall in practice, even though his track average is 30th with not much experience, like 21st overall, all things considered, it with my mathematical formula. So I think at 6,100, you can consider him in cash here, or at least a GPP play. Kyle Sieg, the Sieg program is usually strong. I think he's probably one of the weaker drivers, but it's a decent program here. So I can give him a GPP, 28th in practice. For him, nothing, kind of vanilla, nothing, no apparent upside, no apparent downside. So he's just kind of there, last man in, no problem. Kruth, a little bit more expensive by $900 here. He was 29th in practice. I think these are the similar cars. They're not similar cars, but similar drivers, although Sieg has the better equipment. Kruth, I think, has a little bit more upside. I can't remember. I think he might be local to this area too. I think when we were watching practice and qualifying, they showed him like racing midgets or something on this track. So, I mean, that might help a little bit, but it's still like 7,200 GPP. It might be kind of a no man's land. I don't think he's going to have a ton of ownership. So, Emmerling, 31st in practice, 20th in qualifying, does not have a sponsor. That scares me a lot here. So, when you just see a car with a black paint job and a number on it, and that's the only thing, you fear that they might just start and park it. They're just there to get the paycheck, to try to get sponsors and to survive for another race. Ryan Ellis in this Alpha Prime Racing, I think, is starting a little bit too far forward also. Stefan Parsons, same thing. These 3 drivers, I just really don't like their practice speeds and everything and where they qualified. Chris Hacker, I'd absolutely love here. I said Ryan Sieg Racing is decent here. He was 16th in long run speed, 27th in practice overall. This is not a 30th place car. He does have some talent here, and I think like my projection has him as the highest point per dollar play on the slate at 5,900, getting about 36 DK points. And I don't know if he'll get up to 6x, but I think he's definitely someone to consider here as a very strong play in cash to, if you want to try to get some of those 10K guys in your lineup. Perkins also, I like. He was 19th in long run speed here, 24th in practice, so definitely better when he started. The R Motorsports car isn't bad at all. Like when Weatherman was in it, he did some really good things. So definitely someone to consider here. Massey GPP, I think he's probably in this range. Like I still like Hacker or Perkins if you can get to them, but I think I'd rather play him than Poole. I'd rather play him than Emmerling, Ellis, Stefan Parsons, or Greg Van Aalt. So definitely Massey. I just think in this price range, that's why I put the GPP tag on him. Fincham, no, this car has failed to qualify. It's finished last so many times. It seems like it's a start and park effort. Also, McLaughlin's not a good race car driver either. And the 53, if the 35 doesn't have much sponsorship, I don't think the 53 does either. So it's a fade for me. Not interested. Greg Van Aalt I know he's done well in the ARCA series, but he just seems lost in the Xfinity series here. Practice speed, 37th. I think he was in an accident last week in Atlanta. I think it's going to be a while before he develops himself, and he's not going to finish. The only thing that he has upside here is that you have so many bad cars in like McLaughlin and Fincham and Emmerling that potentially like Parsons too, that he could end up moving like up 3 or 4 places. But his price point is 54. It's not in the 4K range. So I think I'm definitely out on him. And then you're going to have the two chalk plays down here. Ryan Sieg and Kaz Grala. Kaz Grala was having an amazing practice session. He was doing so well. This is his hometown track. He was like cruising, and then Ryan Sieg lost his brakes and slid up the track into him, knocked Kaz Grala into the wall. They're both going to start with backup cars. Kaz Grala is confident. He said to his team, the Sam Hunt Racing, that they brought a good backup car. He's never been in a backup car before, he said, but he thinks that they can copy the setup and that he's going to be good. He was super fast. He was fourth fastest in practice. He had the second best long run speed. It was towards the end of practice when they crashed. So he's got no place to go but up here. I don't know if he'll score 70 points here and be 9x, but I think that's a little far-fetched, but I think he'll definitely have a really good day, and he's probably my favorite play as the third prime. Ryan Sieg also, but with the brake problem, and I think there's upside here too. But if I have to pick one of the two of these, you can get both of them in, but there was a build I wanted to go for where I can only get one of them in, and if I have to make a choice, it's Gralla, and that's why I made him the prime play and Sieg just a cash play. But both of them are definitely so. I mean, if you want to start Sieg, Gralla, and then go Custer and Smith, and then fill in for the other two, then that's definitely what's going on there. So that's what I got for you. Hopefully it doesn't get too messed up with the weather. So I appreciate you watching the video. We'll have a cup video out, and thank you for all that watched the cup video. If you did last week, we had over 1,100, almost 1,200 views on that. So that's absolutely awesome. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me up at MegaRiver31 on Twitter. My DMs are open. I definitely, if you want some help one-on-one, some coaching, that's fine. And if you want more information on FSi DFS, to get into our Discord, to get our program's $5 a week, it's like $15 a month. It's super cheap. Go to the description of the video, you can get to the website, and it'll show you how to sign up for our package there. And then finally, if these videos help you, you're helping us by watching them, so I appreciate that. But if you want to go a little bit extra, then just hit the like button. That helps get it out to more people. Share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so you know they're going to come out. So if you're a first time viewer, then you'll know when our videos drop. And we do baseball, we do PGA, and we'll have to see with the NFL and NBA season if we're going to do anything with that. But definitely, got some really good content here, and we appreciate all the people who subscribe and view our stuff on a regular basis. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great weekend. You know how to get a hold of me. Good luck in your contest. I'm playing kind of late just with the weather here, and not as much as usual. So if I usually pay like $100, I will probably be playing about 50. I'm just giving you like kind of a guideline here. So I'm playing 50% of what I normally would, just with the weather. I've just been burnt too much recently with the weather changes and stuff. So I'm hoping for some races to come up that the weather will be fine, and we can actually be a little bit more not as volatile for DFS purposes. So hope everybody has a good weekend. Again, hope the weather holds up, and I'll see you next time.